34 kilometres down Highway 43 lies the community of Elkford, a town built on the back of the area's coal mining industry in the 1970s. Elkford has recently been hard at work rebranding itself as an eco-friendly wilderness destination. And our first guest on Where You Live is the Mayor of Elkford, Dean McKerricker. Dean, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for coming. It's good to have you here.
Absolutely. Now, you are currently in your fourth term as the Mayor of Elkford. What's the ride been like for you so far?
It's been lots of fun. We've completed a lot of projects in the last term, the 4 terms that I've been the mayor. The first 3 years I was on council, we didn't do a lot as a council, and that was my commitment when I ran for mayor, was to get this community up and running and moving forward and out of the dark ages and into the future. And we're doing that, as you can see from the things we've done in the past 14 years.
We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a bit, but I wanted to rewind a little bit here and talk about when you first came to Elkford. You spent some time in trail mining and then you moved to Elkford. What was the town like when you first came here, and when was that?
It was 1971. The town was very small, trailers only. There was some homes being constructed when I first came here. My first 10 months was in Sparwood. There was no homes for us in Elkford. So I brought my wife and 2 young daughters to Sparwood. And then my youngest daughter was born in the old Michelle Hospital, which is no longer there now. But we moved to Elkford about 10 months after we were in Sparwood, and into our house that I'm still in today, almost 46 years later.
You spent a lot of time working on the mine here at Fording River, but in 2001 you decided to run for council and eventually became the mayor 3 years later. What was the decision-making process there? Why did you want to get involved?
Well, I've always been a social guy. I was a board of directors for the BC Curling Association for 5 years, as well as the credit union, and so I got more and more social with my careers, and when I was asked to run for council, they actually wanted me to run for mayor, excuse me, the first term, and I said no, I wanted to run for council and be a councillor for the first term and see whether or not it was what I really wanted to do. And so I was successful with winning that election as a councillor, and spent 3 years and realized that I really liked the political world and what it had for us to offer. So,
within your first term, or pretty close to, you really started to shake things up. You oversaw the rebranding of the town. Obviously, Elkford has some unique challenges in the fact that it's not on the highway. It's kind of at the end of the road, or it's at the end of the highway, and it doesn't lead to anywhere. Was that part of the reason for trying to take the town in a different direction and giving it a new face?
Well, it was. I guess the first statement is a little bit incorrect. It's not the end of the road, it's the beginning of the road. Elkford's at the beginning of the road. And that was our first move to get Elkford on the map, was to say we're not at the end, we're at the beginning. It was a lot of money to start with, and but at the end of the day, it was a great step and well worth it.
What do you think the overall benefit has been, if you can look back to when it first came out and to the effect that it's had?
Well, people look at our community as a leading example now. Through all of the process that we've gone through, and part of the things that we've done, not only for the rebranding, but when we've rejuvenated our buildings and put new lighting systems, LED lightings, and new heating systems, and all the things that we've done. When we changed our OCP, we were recognized by the World Association on climate change, and we had a 2-page article in their book that Elkford's OCP was speaking to climate change. And so anything that we do now, it's when we buy new equipment, we make sure that it's as efficient as possible. When we do things for our buildings, we make sure that they're efficient as possible. This building you're sitting in right now is 17,000 square feet. We heated it the first year for about $8,000. This past year, we got the bills all together, was $5,900 to heat a 17,000 square foot building. So, I mean, that's efficiency at its highest. And so people, like our old office, I think is like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. So, you know, we're going in the right direction, we're going forward, and I hope that anybody in the future that sits in this position will continue to do those things that we're doing.
Do you think that it's kind of, from an outward point of view, people see this as quite an interesting community because its lifeblood is the coal mining industry, yet you've been recognised for being one of the cleanest towns and the most progressive towns in the area?
It is, and when I go to the conferences, FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, or the UBCM, they ask me, how can you be a climate change community and do all the things you're doing environmentally when you live on coal mine money? And I say, you know what? We don't have to be like them. We live downtown. We don't work at the coal mine. We don't live at the coal mine. And anything that we're doing, we're trying to convince them to do the same thing, to be more efficient. They just developed a program where they put 6 LNG haul trucks on. So they're trying to do that as well. So they're working their way the same as we are. They manage their water the same as we manage our water. So all the things that we've done, I hate to say it, the giant is kind of stepping in our footsteps and following us, and that's great. That's a good thing.
That must make you feel pretty proud of the stuff that you've overseen here, and now that the mine is doing that.
It does. It really does. Yeah, it's great.
Now, obviously, the mining industry is heavily linked to this town. Do you think that, in the scenario that the mine closes one day, how do you think the town is in a position to carry on and to move forward?
The reason we started the rebranding in the first place, if you want to go back to that, is because we wanted to attract a different industry to the community, a light industry that wasn't tied to the mines, for instance, electronics or whatever. That wasn't tied to the mines, and so that we could survive should the mine shut down. Kimberly learned a lesson, and we know that, we see that, and so we're trying to prepare now for the future. And one of my counselors is always about, he wants a big pot of money so that if the mine shuts down, we can operate for a few years until we find something new. I think now's the time to find something new. And so that's why we rebranded, and part of that rebranding still hasn't been finished. And that was to put a package together and go to the large companies or the different companies around the country and say, here, we have lots of space. We have great air, we have free water, we have lots of land that we can get. And it's a great outdoor living. Mm-hmm. You can walk out your door and go fishing, you can go snowmobiling, you can go quadding, you can do whatever you want to do.
And speak to that, I mean, obviously the slogan of the town is wild at heart. You have the big signs when you come into town that say the wilderness capital of BC. Is that really, do you feel that's one of the big selling features besides the mine to coming and settling and living in Elkford?
I believe so. If you take somebody out of an office in Calgary that's never been out in this kind of country and bring them to Elkford, they fall in love with Elkford right away. And Elkford's a place that you either love or you hate. So we get people that come here to work in the mines, and they either love it or they hate it. If they don't like it, they go. Their families don't like it, they move. You'll talk to some people that have been here for 40 years.
Now, talk a little bit about the people of this town, because it is a unique town in terms of its location. Do you think that its relative isolation has made the town what it is, and maybe strengthened the bonds between the people in the community?
Well, I believe so. It's a great volunteer community. Everything we do, we have a ton of volunteers that help us with everything that we do. We have some people in town that don't want to let the secret out what a great place this is to live. They don't want that secret out. They want to keep it to themselves.
And speaking to somewhat diversifying, there's the ski hill that's been developed in town. How successful has that little ski hill been?
It's been a great hill. It's a family hill. It's pretty reasonable to ski there. My kids all learn to ski there, and it's a volunteer group that run it every year, and it's difficult sometimes to get help to run the hill, but overall it's been a great success. The District of Elkford, since I've been the mayor, we've probably put over, I'm going to say $750,000 probably into that ski hill.
Do you ever see the hill taking the path of, say, a Kimberley, where it was at once a community-run hill and it's expanded? Do you think there's that opportunity here?
Well, we've had a couple of people come to us and ask us if they could buy the hill from us, and with no firm commitment. But the land around the ski hill is Crown land, And it's a Crown lease for us. So the District of Elkford has that Crown lease, and we pay that lease every year. And we pay the insurance on the hill for the ski hill because it's under our name. So if anything ever happens throughout the year, somebody gets up and gets hurt, we're covered by insurance. So, but the land around it and the bottom of it is Crown. We're in a move right now and have been for 5 years now, trying to get the government to authorize us to become the, for the lack of a better word, the real estate agent for the Crown land. Put a price on it through the Crown, let them bring an assessor and put a price on it, negotiate with the Tandaka over what they expect out of that land, and then we have that package together. So when somebody comes and says we want to buy the ski hill and we might want to buy the land around it, what's it going to cost us? We can say, well, this is the cost, and we can probably get it done in 6 months. But the way it is right now, it's probably a 2.5 year project to get the land, just the land.
Well, it seems like one thing for sure, you're definitely a busy man. You've been a busy man ever since you've been the mayor, and it doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon.
No.
Are you planning on, after 12 years, are you planning on giving it another run next year at the election?
It won't be 12, it'll actually be 13.
13 by then.
When I'm finished. It'll be 16 years in politics when I'm finished. I've been giving it some serious thought, and my family would like me to resign. Not to resign, but just not to run again. And I'm thinking down that line now that I probably won't run again. I'm getting to the age where I should be retired and having fun. But this is fun. I mean, this is my fun. And I have no idea what I'll do after if I don't run. And who knows, maybe I wouldn't even get elected because, there's a lot of young people coming to the community. Our community is changing. The demographics are changing daily. The mines are hiring 30 people a month. Is there some bright shining star that'll step forward? I hope so. I really do. I'd like to see some young people get in there. I've had advice from other people that go, well, the getting's good and you're on a high and the things you've accomplished have been wonderful. One of my council meetings, we were discussing a new district office. And the comment was, well, we need to build a new office so that he has something to be recognized for. And one of the other councillors said, you mean the conference center is not enough? So on that note, I've suggested council that we should build a new office now. It's 44 years old. It leaks. It's bad. It's in bad shape. Build a new office now, and I'll take the responsibility for the taxpayers if they get up in arms about doing that.
All right, Daniel, thank you very much for joining us on Where You Live.
Thank you, sir.
Don't go anywhere. We've got more Where You Live after the break. Welcome back, and our guest now is the President of the Elkford Arts Council Society, Terry Cleverly. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, well, thanks for having me here.
No problem. Now, you moved here in 1991, originally from Spokane, Washington. How does somebody from Spokane end up in little old Elkford?
In 1990, I learned how to ride a motorcycle, and I went with friends of ours, rode up to Selmo to a party up there. So it was the first time I'd been out on a highway, first time I had gone through a street light in Spokane, but we ended up in Selmo and I met my husband. My husband was from Elkford, and that's how eventually I ended up in Elkford. I actually moved up here in November of '90. And it started snowing. My husband was a blaster at the mine, and he lived in a trailer. And so he left about 6:30 in the morning, and it snowed up to the bottom of the window, that big picture window. And then by the time he got home at 7:30 at night, it had covered the whole window. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I made the right choice. But I think I did. I mean, I've been here a long time, and I love it here.
Given the location of Elkford, was there a sense of isolation when you come in on the road and you kind of at the end or the beginning of the road, as they like to say here? Did you get that feeling when you first came to town?
Well, if you come from a place where there's movie theaters, restaurants, universities you could go to, concerts you can see, and you drive in and there was no street light, there wasn't even a blinking light, and there was a store, a liquor store, a post office, and I think there was a coffee shop in the old mall at that point. Yeah, it felt really isolated, and it took a couple years to get used to being here, but I became the youth care worker for the 3 schools here in Elkford. There were 2 elementary schools and 1 high school. That created the connection I had with Elkford. I think it was working in the schools and doing what I do, using art as a way to help children survive.
And of course, art, given your position now, art has been a big part of your life, and you've had quite an impact here in Elkford, growing the Arts Council, the easels. You brought in a number of easels, and you brought in a whole bunch of pottery wheels for the public to use. You've put a lot of effort into what was the driving force behind that, and was there ever any concern that maybe here in Elkford that it might not get the use that it deserves?
Well, I think the vision is, and I say is and not was, is that this can be a place just like Atlin or Kimberley Art Center or Fernie Art Station. It can be that way. And because of the beauty in this small community up the valley here, it has that kind of connection about it that you can create an art space here. Last year, 2016, we had 480 people go through our doors on a regular basis. And we've connected with the Family Center in Fernie, where those youth care workers come up to Elkford and work with kids in the community. Before there was an art studio, they would just go hang out at 1 or 2 of the restaurants that we have here. Now they come to the art studio and they make art and they use that as a vehicle. I never thought it would grow as fast as it did. And so we're really, really proud of it.
And I would imagine that a lot of the artists, not just in Elkford, but in the surrounding area, the area that you would pull from, would have been very excited to see something like this come, given that there was no Arts Council here before.
I think it was a surprise to everybody that there were actually a group of artists here that were so committed to keeping a space alive and watching it grow. And the art studio's changed Elkford. It's changed in ways we never thought it would. I mean, under our umbrella, we have a cinema that runs movies for kids once a month. So we do many things. We're strongly supported by this little community, which is an amazing thing, right? Mm-hmm. And we just keep plugging along and doing what we do.
Do you see the arts community growing since you've opened this facility? Are there more people coming out of the woodwork, so to speak, that you hadn't seen before or didn't know were really that creative type in this town?
Oh, yes. And there's many ways to do that we've done a sip and paint where people have come and the golf course opened their space for us as a fundraiser because we couldn't put that many people upstairs in the art studio. So those people that just came and kind of tried their hand at painting, they loved it, and we had more people register to become members. It's a really neat place on a Saturday afternoon in the middle of winter, where you've got the kettle going on, you've got music playing, and you've got parents and kids making art. So. And
where to next? Obviously, you probably want to keep growing. You want to add more services. What's the plan going forward for the Arts Council?
Well, our plan is we're rapidly growing out of space. And there's one demographic that we don't reach, and that's seniors, because we are up 2 flights of stairs. And even though there's a handicap lift to help them come up 2 flights of stairs, it is pretty intimidating for most people that can't get up the stairs. So we're looking for a bigger space eventually, maybe 3-4 years down the road. at this point. And we'll keep bringing in professional artists. We've had Doug Swinton, who's a Canadian landscape painter, Sarah Pike, who's a master potter, Michael Heffer, who's a printmaker. We've had high-end professional artists come in and do workshops in the art studio, and those have been well attended. So we'll just keep doing what we're doing.
One last question for you. What keeps you in Elkford after all these years?
When I first moved here, and I've always been a portrait painter, I paint people, and I swore I would never paint a landscape or never paint an animal. Well, my paintings have sold in Yellowstone, they've sold all over Canada, and I'm painting grizzly bears, moose, elk, yeah, you never know what's going to happen when you go somewhere, because this community and this beautiful part of the world, even though there's a mine up the valley, has a way of insinuating itself on your artistic conscience. And that was a surprise to me. I never thought that would happen, but it did. So.
All right, Terry, well, thank you very much for joining us on Where You Live.
Thanks for having me.
Don't go anywhere, we've still got more coming up after the break. Welcome back, and joining us now is a long-time resident here in Elkford, Rebecca Bauer. Rebecca, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, you grew up here as a kid. What was it like? What was it like growing up here?
So I grew up right from the beginning till after I graduated from high school. It was great. I loved Elkford. I loved the community. I loved being a part of everything that Elkford had to offer outside of school and within the schools as well.
Was there ever a sense amongst you and your group of friends of isolation, of wanting to get out and see the world and maybe leave Elkford?
Yeah, there was always the excitement, like after high school, what it was like to live in the city or something. But it was also exciting too, like if there was going to be a weekend trip to Lethbridge or Calgary, it was like more of an excitement. And then when I actually ended up moving to a city, the excitement of going to like movie theaters, and you can't really do that every night anyway. So yeah.
So what do teenagers and kids do here in Elkford?
I was really into high school sports, as well as like recreation sports that the district had to offer, and so that was what a lot of my time was doing.
And then, of course, you went away, got an education, came back, and you decided to raise a family here with your husband. Talk about that decision. Was it your positive experiences as a kid that made you want to come back and live here?
Yes, absolutely. That is why both my husband and I, we both chose to come back once our children, we moved back when they were 1 and 3, and that was because of what we loved about Elkford, what we believed in about this community, and we wanted our 2 boys to grow up with the same that we had.
And I feel like the town has kind of developed its own identity, given the fact that it's on the end or the beginning of the road, depending on who you talk to. Do you feel the community, like a real strong bond between members of the community, given that fact that it is kind of out there, it's not on the highway, not on the main road?
I think so, because we almost take pride in that we're kind of like a community on its own. We're separated and we sort of stick together and are really proud of things that Elkford has to offer and that we have to offer to other communities as well.
And now with your kids here, raising them, how do you see them enjoying their time here in Elkford?
There's so much opportunities Elkford has to offer for all ages, I find. So my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old are already involved in lots of things in our community. There's lots of events, lots of different activities that are put on by the district or sometimes private people that have things going on. Yeah.
And the town's slogan is wild at heart. Obviously, you're nestled right in the middle of a mountain range and very close to wilderness. Is that something that you enjoy doing with you and your husband and your family?
Yeah, we love to be outside. I mean, I look out my front window every morning and I'm just grateful for what I see. Like just the view, I'm kind of in awe that that's what I get to see every day. And we love to be outside. It's so nice that I can just throw a leash on my dog and I'm on a river trail minutes from my house. I don't have to drive like I used to when I lived in the city to take him for a walk, or my kids can just ride their bikes around our area. I don't have to worry about, like traffic and stuff like I would somewhere else.
Do you think that living in Elkford gives, I guess, adults and children more of an opportunity or more of a reason to build that connection with nature as opposed to if they, say, live in a bigger centre or live in the city?
I think so, because nature here is honestly right at your back door. It's accessible for anyone to use, and I think in Elkford they really encourage that as part of our community, to love and kind of respect the outdoors.
Since you were here as a child and you've left and come back, what have you seen change? Have you seen the community grow in any ways?
I think there's even more offered here than even when I was growing up. Once people kind of come here or start seeing what Elkford's like, I think they are surprised at how much is available to the residents that live here and all the opportunities that we do have.
Do you hope that, obviously it's still early with your kids, they're still young, but do you hope that they see that, and would you like to see them live their lives here in Elkford too?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think I would love to see them, especially if they want to raise a family as well. Like, it's important for me. I also believe in, trying something else and a new adventure as well, but I hope their adventure brings them back here again one day.
All right, perfect. Well, Rebecca, thank you very much for joining us on Where You Live.
Thank you.